Hey guys, welcome back to Waxing On. It's Monday, and of course that means jazz. Today we're going to look at a keyboard player who I first became aware of as a member of Miles Davis' Electric Band, who we talked about a few weeks ago, and that's Chick Corea. Now I'd have to admit that when he was playing with Miles, I really didn't get a real feel for what he was able to do. I mean, I recognized the name, but you really didn't get him playing too much out front. I was introduced to his music more by the big bands of Woody Herman and Maynard Ferguson. Woody Herman, I remember seeing live playing one of Chick Corea's tunes called Spain, which was really excellent. And on an album he's recorded La Fiesta, as did Maynard Ferguson record La Fiesta. So a couple of Chick Corea's tunes turned into big band tunes is really where I first became aware of his music. So I went back and started looking at some of his albums. Now the first one I bought was one of his very early albums, Chick Corea, Return to Forever. And this is called Light as a Feather. Now the Return to Forever band, it doesn't list a lot of members on this album. We got vocals, we got Flora Purim and Stanley Clarke on bass. And basically that's all they list on here. Tunes, well, we got Chick Corea. Stanley contributed the song Light as a Feather. The rest of the tunes, 500 Miles High, Children's Song, Spain, all by Chick Corea. So a smaller group, but an introduction into what he was doing. And some nice vocals in there too by Flora Purim. Now the second album I picked up was a little different because he's expanded the size of the band. This one was called Music Magic, 1977, still Return to Forever. But I'll just read you a little bit from the liner notes on here. This is by Chick Corea. Welcome to the next chapter of Return to Forever. Our intention remains the same, musical fun with no barriers of musical style or type of audience. There have been all kinds of rewards for Return to Forever and myself in composing, rehearsing, and recording of Music Magic. But our largest reward is your pleasure in listening. So, changing things up a little bit, and the band's a little larger now. Gail Moran is now vocalist. Stanley Clarke still playing bass. He's added Joe Farrell on saxophone, Jerry Brown on drums, a fellow named John Thomas on trumpet. I'm just going to show you a picture of John down there. Get a little closer look if I can get past it. Here's John down here on trumpet, because I'm going to talk about him just in a second too. Lead trumpet player. James Tinsley on trumpet. Jim Pugh on trombone. Now you remember when we talked about Jim back during the Woody Herman albums. He was one of Woody Herman's trombone players for a long time, and certainly any of the time I saw Woody's big band, Jim was holding down the trombone section and a featured soloist. Harold Garnett, again another studio trombone player, and Bernie Kirsch was the engineer. Solos, we've got solos by James Tinsley, Jim Pugh, and Joe Farrell on reed solos. So a little larger band than what he had with Light as a Feather, and he's added a whole different texture to the mix. Now, the next album I picked up, and this one, I guess I call it a concept album. Chick Corea Mad Hatter. Inspired by Alice in Wonderland. Now, for me, the concept albums don't always really strike me. I like the tunes. I like the variety. This one, I've got to be in the right mood to listen to it. Not that it's a bad album. It's just a different kind of album. On this one, we've got some of the same players. He's got a large band. He's added Herbie Hancock, an old bandmate from the Miles Davis days. Gail Moran still doing vocals. Steve Gadd, who you may remember we talked about with some of the albums with Chuck Mangione. He's playing drums now. Eddie Gomez on bass. Joe Farrell is again back on saxophones. Stuart Blumberg on trumpet. John Rosenberg on trumpet. And John Thomas back playing lead again. And John did a lot of albums with Chick Corea. John played with big bands. He did studio work. I've got a couple of albums here. One with Count Basie Band. He played on Raven Speaks with Woody Herman. He's obviously done quite a few with Chick Corea. And now John's teaching at University of Southern California. I'll just show you a more current picture of John. We looked at one just a second ago. Yeah, that's what he looks like now after all these years. And a few years ago, John put out a DVD. Because John does a lot of teaching in not only the university, but does master classes as well. And the DVD is called Trumpet Secrets Revealed by John Thomas. Now, I remember I wrote a review for Amazon on it after I purchased this and talked to John about it and said, okay, can I do that? And really, to me, I'm wondering, when I was a young trumpet player, where was something like this? It's basically a master class that he does with a group of students, talking all about his style of playing, the mechanics of playing that he goes through. And I remember when I was taking lessons from Roger Ingram, he had said to me, study with a lot of different people. You know, you get different ideas from different teachers, put them together and decide what works for you. And it's surprising, I remember watching master classes with, well, obviously Roger, with John Thomas. I'm trying to think, there's been a few more on there. Certainly obvious ones, I'm missing my lead trumpet player from Big Fat Band, Wayne Bergeron. And they all kind of say the same thing, but in a different way. Even some of the things John talks about here in the way he does embouchure and breathing, it's all the same as the other guys mentioned, but he's just got a different way of presenting it. And sometimes those different ways click. And that's what really helps a number of different teachers. Anyways, if you are a trumpet player and can find this, it's well worth the time spent to take a look at it. One of Chick Corea's main trumpet players, lead players, John Thomas, now teaching at the University of Southern California, and here's an opportunity to get a one-on-one master class. Okay, let's go back to the album here. So we talked about that. We got Ron Moss trombone. We've got some viola, cello, acoustic bass. So he's got a bit of a string section in there as well. And again, it's just a whole different style. At this point, Chick Corea is getting into a lot of different music, a lot of different influences. And again, with the concept album, I know Tom Waits did one based on Alice in Wonderland as well. Sometimes I've just got to be in the mood for it. I'm looking more for variety in my listening, and I enjoyed Music Magic and Light as a Feather. They resonated with me more than what Matt Hatter did, but well worth checking out. Again, all these albums are in the streaming networks. They're available as hard copies, so an opportunity to kind of sample them, find out which ones maybe work best for you. Certainly, he was a real driving force in jazz fusion, and he took it a little farther than that. Again, my first introduction was the Miles Davis era. He's certainly a lot different from what we heard back then, but a lot of these great players that came out in the 70s and 80s all started through Miles' band. And if again you want to check that out, a few weeks ago we featured Miles' electric era, the 1970s, as an episode I'm going to say a couple of weeks ago now. Anyways, that's it for today. Monday, Chick Corea. Somebody to check out if you like piano music, if you like that jazz fusion sound, if you like some horns and saxes in there playing too. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff on here. Check them out. Today's the last Monday in September. We're going into October by the end of the week. Fall's starting to settle in, so everybody bundle up. Take care. Thanks for stopping by. We'll see you on Wednesday.